Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the SV Squared Circle. I'm Jeremy Cook, and I am joined by your co-host, all the way from the Great White North, Montreal, Quebec, Anthony Mosca. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Yourself, Jeremy?
I'm pretty good. I can't complain. So, what we do here on SV Squared Circle, we talk about wrestling. Everything wrestling. We throw in some UFC if we want to. You know why? It helps us all out. So, we have Elimination Chamber coming up this Sunday. And the first segment we're going to talk about is the pre-show segment, which isn't a match this time, believe it or not. It's The Miz on Miz TV talking about Daniel Bryan, who I would presume is going to talk about his injury. But we've talked about this, and neither of us can really see the point of The Miz doing this, because it won't develop his character, it won't develop Daniel Bryan's character. Why not have Daniel Bryan come out and just talk to the fans himself? What do you think about this?
I just think that Miz TV is just there to host Daniel Bryan more than anything. Just like how Jericho had the highlight reel, Piper had Piper's Pit. It's just more of a stage just for Daniel Bryan to talk. I guess they're just giving Miz TV time. I mean, Miz does help the company a lot in terms of social media. I guess the least they could do is give him TV time with Miz TV. He's not fighting.
He did just come back from a movie too, now that I think about it.
He did come back from a movie, so they're probably just giving him some TV time. They're probably gonna make him tap into the heel persona. He might give some cheap shots of Bryan in terms of he might not come back to the ring. He might not ever get a title again due to the fact he's already vacated 2 titles in 1 year. If that's what I just see Miz doing. Bryan,
I agree.
Bryan, he's probably going to tell us more of his health update. I'm praying for the best news from Bryan. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he announces something of down the lines of retirement or worse. Let's hope it's something down the lines of surgery, and Bryan can get back into the square circle as soon as possible. But that's my take on the pre-show of Elimination Chamber.
It is kind of a shame when you put it like that, because this is a guy, and I'm talking about Daniel Bryan, who has literally clawed his way to the top. He is the true underdog story of not just WWE, but life in general. So many times we're told, no, you can't do this because you're too small, or you don't have the right talents. Daniel Bryan was told he couldn't do this, and what did he do? He did better than anyone could have ever expected. Independent scene, WWE, this guy did it all, and I really just hope for the best, because he deserves it. He has the fans behind him, and he understands that he has a connection with the fans that very few have, and it's such a shame that he can't revel in that while he's recovering. And when I say that, I'm saying that in the hopes that he can recover. So moving on to the main card on the show, we have Neville taking on Bo Dallas in what appears to be an NXT reunion rivalry. I don't get the point of this. I know you are with me on this. For those who don't know, these two feuded in NXT for the NXT Championship, and Neville ended up beating Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas went up to the main roster to do nothing, except for Bo leave. And Neville ended up...
He definitely didn't believe in himself.
He definitely didn't believe in himself. That's why that gong is there. And Neville ended up becoming a champion, defending his championship, dropping it to Sami Zayn, and then moving up to the main roster himself, where he's taken everyone by storm over the last month, which is, again, why I don't understand the point that this match has with Neville. What do you think?
Every time we talk about this match, I always just get lost in words. I don't know what the point of this match is. I mean, the feud ended in NXT. I mean, if I recall correctly, Bo lost the championship to Neville. He used his rematch clause. Lost that match, which was a ladder match for the NXT title, which I believe if Bo Dallas lost, he had to quit NXT. So, I mean, right there, that should just show you that rival should be over with. He beat him. He had to quit NXT. Like, I don't see why this is continuing on the main roster. This is a feud that nobody, and I honestly mean not many people are interested in.
I don't
why
even think
create?
they're interested in it themselves, to be honest.
I was just gonna say that I don't even think creative is really putting much interest into this. Also, I mean, what did Bo say? He mentioned down the lines of the NXT Championship. So this just looks like a jealousy match to me. It has absolutely no point on the card. I'm just gonna go on and say Neville's gonna win.
And I'm just going to say I agree, and I think we should just move on to the next topic. It's just not worth our time, honestly. What is worth our time is the match we're about to talk about, the first ever Tag Team Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. And before I go into that, I'm going to say, if Los Matadores win the title, we're canceled. Now moving on to the actual match, we have Los Matadores, the Lucha Dragons, primetime players. We have the Ascension, Ken Cesaro, and your champions, the New Day. And you can tell by my enthusiasm who I'm not rooting for. For those who don't know, if you look at my articles on our site, which you're on right now because you're listening to this, I have an article, or a few actually, about pay-per-views, predictions, and reviews. And if you see my New Day reviews, you'll see I'm not exactly their biggest fan because the gimmick made no sense. But the more I realized it worked perfectly because I'm not a guy who's going to say, I hate this gimmick, I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. This gimmick got me to do that perfectly. They are over his heels. I see that they got the titles. I still wish Kid and Cesaro were the champions because they deserve it. Not saying that Big E, Kofi, and Xavier Woods don't. But Kid and Cesaro are something special, and there's such few tag teams now that you can really say are special. The Wolves in TNA are special. Kid and Cesaro are special. And that's it. That's honestly who I think is it in this current day. What do you think about this match?
All I gotta say is there's a lot of talent in that chamber. I'm curious how they're gonna do the chamber though. I wonder if it's gonna be a tornado tag with just like everyone in the ring after they come out of the pod. So let's say if there's like 2 teams, there's 4 people in the ring, and then 3 teams, 6, so on and so forth. And I'm just really curious if they're just gonna have like a cluster mess in there. So that has my curiosity. In terms of teams, everyone in that chamber at some point deserves the tag titles. I mean, Ascension was built up perfectly in NXT. They were brought up to the main card. They started off as faces. That crowd brought them down to heels, and then they just became irrelevant.
And then they became the Legion of Doom after they were irrelevant.
Pretty much. Lucha Dragons. Vince McMahon is very hot on Lucha Dragons. He's very happy on that there's another team that will take high-flying moves and
Kalisto is just something else. Kalisto is just so much fun to watch.
Kalisto is amazing to watch, which is why at some point Vince wanted to put the titles on Lucha Dragons. This was until New Day was formed with the whole rivalry with...
So again, New Day robs someone else of a deserving tag team championship reign.
Well, it was actually...
Here comes the gong!
It was actually Kid and Cesaro because it was during the UK tour which the fans just grasped Kid and Cesaro. So WWE decided to run with it, and instead of adding Lucha Dragons back into the mix, they just kept it New Day and Kid and Cesaro. Which brings me to Kid and Cesaro. I'm very for workhorses. I'm very for people that deserve championships. In my opinion, Cesaro deserves more than the tag team gold. But
100%
if this is what the
agree.
company wants to give to him, I guess give him the tag team championships. They were already robbed at Payback. I say that Cesaro and Kid will become the new tag team champions, but I will add that I do think maybe no title changes will happen on the pay-per-view, only because it is a network exclusive, so not everyone will be seeing it.
For me, this is tough because of my opinion on New Day. The gimmick is not exactly my favorite. As I was saying before, that's kind of an understatement. But at the same time, if they win this match, it puts their gimmick to a whole new level because people will not only put so much more heat on them, what I'll call the closest thing to X-Pac heat we have had since X-Pac heat. For those who know what I'm talking about, yeah. For those of you who don't, X-Pac was essentially a guy back in Raw's War era. I can't explain it, you just have to watch him. But I digress. This match has the potential to show us some things we have never seen. I mean, tag team moves in the chamber. Cesaro doing a swing into the side of the steel with Kid drop kicking him into the steel itself. That sounds pretty cool. That being said, I think that they are going to keep the titles on New Day. I think that this is going to be... They're going to win in a way that does not prove anything. I think they are going to have all three of them in the chamber. I think that they are going to show everybody, you know what? This may be the most grueling match that there is right now. But positivity overcomes all. And I don't know if you can say there's a dirty, underhanded way to win in a match where there's no disqualifications and you're surrounded by steel that spans 10 miles if you actually rope it out. So, I'm going to say New Day. I don't like it, but I think it's what's going to happen. And with that, we'll move on to our next match, which will be the U.S. champion John Cena taking on the NXT champion Kevin Owens in a non-title match. And in
a champion versus champion match.
Well, if they were billing it like that, which they actually should have, but I think there's more at stake here from their eyes. And what we mean by that is, this is an NXT star. I don't care what anybody says. He's Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, what you want to call him. Yes. He's an NXT. John Cena is a 15-time world champion. That's as many years as Kevin Owens has been wrestling. Granted, Cena has been wrestling less. The point I'm making is, I don't see why Kevin Owens should beat John Cena at this point. Now, before I let Anthony give his spiel, I will say that Anthony is an avid John Cena hater. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's Canadian. He just does not like John Cena. And at the same time, I understand that, not everybody's going to like John Cena. He's very easy to dislike because he's the poster boy. He's going to have those haters. But he doesn't necessarily need the win. But Owens getting a win on John Cena this early in his main roster career, he's been on the main roster for 2 weeks. He just signed on to be on the main roster till SummerSlam, due to an injury we will talk about later on. But to really beat John Cena on your first pay-per-view in the WWE, I mean, it doesn't add up to me. And since you brought up the network exclusive part, why would they show a network exclusive pay-per-view where something of that magnitude, if he beats Cena, that is huge. That may be the biggest win of the night. If Rollins loses the title, Cena losing to Owens still may be the biggest thing that happens, because it's something we don't see. Cena never puts people over, unless it's something, it's just something where it's going to come back around. What do you think about this match? I know what you're going to say, but what do you really think about the dynamic that this match really gives us?
The more I think about it, I still will say Kevin Owens will come out on top for multiple reasons. But at the same time, you know what? Through thinking through the predictions, I haven't said a DQ match. I haven't said a DQ ending, which this could be the DQ ending of a match. Just for it won't
I didn't even think about that.
It won't hurt Cena. It won't really hurt Kevin, since a DQ it's kind of like a draw, but not really. But I could see a DQ ending on that type of match, just like Kevin going out of control and just powerbombing Cena, and maybe the ref stopping the match. That's how it ends. So Cena never really got pinned. The referee stopped the match.
Got destroyed instead.
Destroyed instead, which Kevin's been doing that often, just destroying people to the referee stopping the match. Which brings me to the point of, I think Kevin needs to win, because Kevin is a legitimate badass. I mean, he is. People compare him sometimes to Brock Lesnar.
Well, let's hold off those comparisons for a second. You were saying?
Let's not go that big, but I mean, when you think of the world of wrestling, when you think of big guys, you're thinking Brock Lesnar, you're thinking Kevin Steen, you're thinking Samoa Joe. These guys are all in the industry right now. Kevin needs a bigger win than Sami Zayn.
Hit the gong of your Samoa Joe fan! Sorry, I got excited. You were saying?
He needs a bigger win under his belt. Cena would be that big win. Cena, once again, I told you, Cena doesn't need any win.
He will never need another win in his career, ever.
He's done it all in the business. Right now, what Cena should be focusing on, in my opinion, is putting over young talent. Young talent is NXT. And who needs the push right now would be the NXT champion, Kevin Owens. I know you made a good point that if Kevin does win, that puts him this much higher than everybody else, which means if the next person that beats Kevin, they're going to escalate. We already know that Samoa Joe is here. We already know Samoa Joe is a fantastic athlete. Samoa Joe beating Kevin is not going to be a big surprise. So even if Kevin does beat Cena, it really doesn't hurt Cena in any way. So Cena could give the win to Kevin, which we will then see Kevin most likely giving up his championship to Samoa Joe in the future.
And that's where we sort of have our divide, just because I'm going to go back to your point about the disqualification part. I liked it, and then I thought more, if they show Cena getting destroyed again, because then you brought up Brock Lesnar. The last time Cena was destroyed in the ring, Brock Lesnar did something we'll never see in a title match again, and it was a 15-minute show of him destroying somebody. Well, I loved it because it's a match I'll never see again, in all likeliness. Kevin Owens is not that level. Kevin Owens will never be that level because no one else is that level. I'm talking about Brock Lesnar. As far as John Cena goes, I can see him going for the attitude adjustment, Owens getting out, maybe even low. I don't know if he low blows him actually, because that's not part of his gimmick. I can see him powerbombing him, Cena kicking out, Owens getting frustrated and powerbombing him on the outside of the ring, then doing it a second time. The ref rings the bell for disqualification or a countout. If it's a non-decisive finish, it, like you said, it doesn't hurt either. But if Owens destroys Cena in the process, it makes Owens just go that much higher with his gimmick without making him seem like he beat Cena. So that's where I kind of like your idea. But I'm still going to say Cena will win. I don't know in what regard, but I think Cena's going to win.
We also have to keep in fact that Cena does have a neck injury, so they could kind of exploit that. So if Kevin does win off an injury-based level of like the pop-up powerbomb on the turnbuckle or outside of the ring, they could really feed that story on the next night on Monday Night Raw. Cena saying that, you know, with his weakened neck, like, you'll never be a 100% with that type of injury. So Kevin could always say he exploited it, like he exploited Sami Zayn's injury
but that is different.
And other people.
It's different. It's different because if that was the case, the power bombs would have been used because that's how he got the injury in the first place. But we'll leave it at that.
That's going deep into the subject.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. And the next match we're actually going to talk about is a match that you may not believe that we're that into, but we actually are. It's the Divas Championship match. It's a triple threat match between Paige, Naomi, and the champion Nikki Bella. Now, I'm going to start off by saying that Tamina wins in any way, shape, or form, we're canceled. That match she had on Raw was terrible. Now, any one of these divas can win, and I would have no problem with it. I don't think Anthony would have any problem with it either. Our thing that we can't figure out is who's going to win it. The one thing we seem to be on the edge about is, will Nikki drop it? Because it's very possible that can happen, but it goes back to the network exclusive pay-per-view. Now, if there is a title to be dropped at this particular pay-per-view, I think this is the title that's most likely to have that happen. And I'm going to say my prediction now, so I don't forget to say it. This is tough, because I've changed my mind so much on this. I think I'm going to say your winner and your new Divas champion is Naomi.
I was leaning towards Paige, but then I remembered that Paige is doing Tough Enough, so I have a feeling that they won't really give her the title, only for the sole fact that they want her to concentrate, along with the other trainers, on Tough Enough. Naomi, I do agree with you for that. I do think that if there will be a title change, it will be the Divas Championship, only for the fact that Naomi was supposed to be the Divas Champion last WrestleMania, which she did mention on Total Divas, which you could watch on the WWE Network.
You're welcome for the plug in WWE Network.
Which brings me back to thinking that Nikki Bella is going to retain, only for the fact that I don't think Naomi's ready yet. I think she still has to tap into that heel persona. She's doing fantastic. She's a great wrestler. But I do think Nikki Bella is going to keep it at least till SummerSlam.
While we're on the topic of Paige, I mean, she is 22. And when you think about it, I'm 22. I'm ready to be a Divas champion, right? I mean, don't you think I can make it? Put me in some tights, some spandex, get me in that ring. You know, I can last about 10 seconds, get the title. Don't you think?
If you say so, Jeremy.
Dream Killer. So, who do you think is going to win? Do you think Nikki?
I'm going to say Nikki Bella is going to find a way to win. I do know there'll be a lot of interference since there's no champion advantage. So, and it is a triple threat, and triple threats are always touchy because it's usually the underdog that wins by doing nothing. They just come the last second and do their finisher and go for the 1, 2, 3, and it's like, where were you the entire match?
Right.
So
and there's one other thing. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I'm just going to end it with this. There's one thing that I also find to be somewhat odd. A lot of people don't really point this out, but I seem to find all these nitty-gritty details. Nikki Bella as a face saying that she's confident going into a triple threat match where her title is on the line against two people who have left her motionless in the ring in the last 2 weeks isn't something I'm used to her doing. This is a new Nikki Bella, and she's performed beyond phenomenally in the ring. Kudos to her for improving. I've obviously given thought that John Cena has a huge influence on her in-ring talent improving because, you know, they're dating, obviously. That's not something new. But I don't know. It's so weird because anyone who can win this match, it's okay. It's fine. There's no problem with it. And that's why we have this issue. Now we have the Intercontinental Championship Elimination Chamber match. You get 2 chamber matches in one night. And remember, the WWE Network is free for the month of May. And it's a cancel anytime deal. So you can watch the pay-per-view, and if you don't like it, you're not committed to have to pay anything. You can just cancel your subscription right there. And if you like it, maybe watch a little bit more. So this match, we alluded to someone being hurt earlier, and it's someone in this match. Rusev got hurt on SmackDown, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to wrestle in this match. He was in a walking boot, and that night he just could not walk after the injury. So it's Rusev / his replacement, and we're going to just throw it out there. We think it's Bray Wyatt, so don't hold us to that. It's just what we think. So it's Rusev / Bray Wyatt versus R-Truth versus Sheamus versus Ziggler versus Barrett versus Ryback. And there have been spoilers released. You know, we don't pay attention to that. We're not about that. We're not going to go in here and say, oh, so-and-so's winning the title. We're not here for that. We're here to show you what we think. And that's what this open forum is about, which is where I'm going to bring up, if you ever want to just, you know, leave us a comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, what we can do better, what you'd like to hear, send us an email, do it. We're here for you. Without you, there is no us. So we may be doing this first show, but this is a fan show. We are here for you. So by all means, send us any questions you may have. And we'll go into the match. So I really don't know why Neville is not in this match. We talked about this a little earlier, just because of the fact that Adrian Neville deserves to be in a chamber match. Can you imagine a guy with his ability flying all over a chamber? I would love it. But this match is going to be interesting because you have very ring mat based talent in here. You have Wyatt / Rusev, you have Ryback, you have Ziggler, you have Barrett, you have Truth, and you have Sheamus. And I'm just going to get to my winner. I don't think Truth is going to win it. I don't think Rusev or his replacement is going to win it for that very same reason. They're a replacement. Now, not saying that hasn't happened before, but I can't bring it up for obvious reasons, and I'll talk about that later. But we also have Sheamus, who actually could really use this. Sheamus has come back as a heel, new look, new theme, and by the way, the new theme is absolutely amazing. Great job by CFO. I'm going to give you a gong for that. Great job job on the entrance theme. It's great. It's very heelish. It's very Sheamus. But he hasn't done much since he's returned. He lost a Kiss Me Arse match, and then he ended up getting what he was going to do in the match anyway. He was a servant to King Barrett for a week. He could use an Intercontinental Championship win, and he would bring some value to that title, because all he's been doing is going through people. He bro kicked 2 people on SmackDown, Barrett and I believe it was Truth. So it's very interesting to see how this match can go. I'm going to say it will be Sheamus.
Looking at the participants, Rusev, in my opinion, would have been just someone just to attack on Ziggler. Now that he's probably been changed to Bray Wyatt, I definitely don't see Bray winning. Ziggler definitely looks like the type of person that will be the beatdown of the match / the star of the match. Truth, I cannot see Truth winning it at all.
Poor Truth.
Ryback, I just don't see Ryback with a title, just not at this point of his career. Which leads me to Barrett and Sheamus. At this point, we do need someone that could carry on the IC title. Barrett and Sheamus would be those 2 perfect people. Except Barrett has, in my opinion, lost his rematch clause in exchange for a King of the Ring win, which also puts me to Sheamus. Sheamus, who has lost a Kiss Me Arse match, has lost a few matches to Dolph Ziggler on Raw, also lost in the King of the Ring match. I mean, since Sheamus' return, he's done absolutely nothing except for quote-unquote job. So it kind of looks like WWE is going to be rewarding Sheamus as one of their higher mid-carders, and Sheamus is probably one of the best people to elevate and carry on that title, just like how John Cena is probably one of the best people to elevate and carry on the US title.
I'm glad you touched on that, because it's something that I really wanted to talk about earlier. Ever since Daniel Bryan vacated the Intercontinental Championship, they've really treated it like it's really deserved. A belt that should be fought in Elimination Chamber matches. A belt that really you suffer for it.
This is a title that's been held by Stone Cold, Rock, Mr. Perfect,
Pat Patterson,
Bret Hart. This title needs to be defended in ladder matches at WrestleMania. This title has had like 10 on 10, 5-star matches, whatever you want to call it. This title used to be defended as main event on Raw, event and in your house shows, and now we have the title not being seen almost at all anymore.
I'm going to bring up one point, and then we're just going to name our predictions. I loved it when Cody Rhodes changed the Intercontinental belt from the 2004 look to the classic look back in 2010, I believe it was.
I think it was maybe 11.
It may be 11. I'm not 100% sure on that. You'd probably know more than I would. So, he changed it, and immediately I liked it, just because it brings back that class. And that's why I really don't like the U.S. title. The U.S. title looks like a toy. It looks like an absolute toy. Which is why Cena asked as soon as he got the title to have a design made for him. And I can't wait to see the design. I think it's going to look very similar to the Intercontinental title as far as the plaque. It's going to be that kind of plaque.
Apparently, this is once again a rumor, not a spoiler.
Spoiler!
Cena's asking for the U.S. title to become a spinner U.S. title. So
can I take back that gong? Because 2005 Cena is over. I can't take back the gong, can I?
No, you can't go back.
Sorry, fans.
Sorry. But yeah, apparently Cena is wanting to bring the U.S. title back to the spinner, which, by the way, I'm not excited. I really hated the spinner design.
I like the WWE Championship spinner, because that one made sense on the belt. The U.S. title being a spinner itself made no sense to me. But it was an improvement over the older design, just barely. When they upgraded the WWE Championship, that was a complete overhaul. And I liked it for that. And then they just kept the plaque in place, and that was okay too. I like that one a lot more than the belt they have now. That's just my opinion.
Find the spinner just looks like a joke. It doesn't even look like a title.
Well, it was his rapper gimmick, so... You know.
That is true, but to me a title is prestige. A title is like large. A title wants to be seen. A title isn't a joke that it's gonna start spinning in circles to
Like
catch
my head
attraction.
does every single time I see New Day.
Exactly, like the headaches I get talking about John Cena.
Right, so I'm going to say that Rusev being out, I would have probably picked Rusev to win it. I'm going to say Sheamus wins it.
I'm gonna go back to my roots and say that Sheamus is gonna carry the IC championship onto another level, which will also help his career at this point in time for his heel persona.
Well said, and this brings us to our last match of the night, the main event. Seth Rollins, your WWE World Heavyweight Champion, against the Lunatic Fringe himself, Mr. Dean Ambrose, in what should be a very good match. I mean, these two have been wrestling together for years, back to their Florida Championship Wrestling days, which was before NXT. So, the chemistry thing is there. Not to mention that these two love the spotlight. They absolutely love being in that main event slot. Unfortunately, there's not much else I can really say about this match because there's not much else to say about this match. To say that I'm expecting a change is ignorant on my part. I'm not. Rollins is going to hold the title a little bit longer. I expect this match to go like this. Back and forth, Ambrose will gain the upper hand a little bit, interference will ensue, a dirty win will ensue, and Anthony mentioned something earlier that I really think is great. I'm going to let him do it because it's just such a great idea. You were saying, what should Rollins do at the end of every one of his matches?
I think just to give Rollins that over the edge heel is he should beat Ambrose, whether it's clean or not, which I don't think will be a clean win, but he should finish off Ambrose with dirty deeds. Just because at this point he's already used the RKO, he's used the pedigree. Why not start adding other people's finishers to his moveset list to beat them with?
Mind blown.
So going through that, it just looks too obvious to me that Seth Rollins is going to be the winner of this match. I'd be extremely shocked if they gave it to Dean Ambrose, but kudos to him. He still does deserve a championship. But it's just too thrown together last minute. I believe everything was down in one night of Raw, and that just seems too much in like one episode, and I don't buy the fact that Dean Ambrose is going to win the title this weekend. I just see Seth Rollins retaining. That's it. That's all.
And the thing about it is, Seth Rollins is so over as a heel right now. There's very little else for him to do. And it's unfortunate because when he cashed it in the middle of the main event at WrestleMania, one, I did not see that coming. I'm getting chills just talking about it right now. When his music hit, after Lesnar hit Reigns with the F5 and they were both just laying out in the ring, it took me a minute to register what was going on. And then you see Rollins with the belt, and it adds to his architect gimmick so perfectly. And that was a decision Vince made apparently at the last minute, and kudos to him for that. I mean, it's not something he needs to hear from me. I mean, who am I? But it was a great decision, and ever since then, they've just built up on the architect gimmick, and now they're having the whole pedigree thing. If he could just do the pedigree a little bit better, I wouldn't have a problem with it. He went from the curb stomp, which is banned. Like I said, you can check out that article, click the feed button, go to WWE, go to why WWE has banned Rollins curb stomp, and like the article for me. Just between us and every other viewer. And my boss. And everybody. Anyway, he's just built up his gimmick so well. It just shows how much growth he's had in the 6 years he's been in this company. Ambrose has too, and his time will come. But it's not now. I'm picking Rollins.
Same.
And with that, we are going to end our first inaugural episode of the SV Squared Circle. We'll be back next week to talk about Elimination Chamber, what's happened on Raw, any big news that happens in wrestling, and there has been some that we didn't get to because of time constraints, but hey, that's what next week's show is for, right? Signing off, I am Jeremy Cook.
I'm Anthony Mosca.
And this has been SV Squared Circle. Thank you.